Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hypernet, and specifically I have 20 rattlesnakes which I have hypernetted, and we're going to see the results from this as well as the breakdown that comes with it. So I did a video very similar to this a couple of weeks ago, but in that one I did 30 or so ships and they were all relatively random ships. So I thought this time it would be a lot better to have all the same ship, that is the Rattlesnake. That way it would be a lot easier to see what happened, what the profits were, losses, etc. And this way we'd be working completely on averages. One good bit of luck or a bit of bad luck wouldn't skew all of the results one way or another. So the ship I decided on was the Rattlesnake. I already had a few in my hangar and there were enough on the market for me to go buy, manufacture and purchase off buy orders. So I settled on the number of 20 just because it was a nice round number. It was a decent sample size and they were relatively easy to acquire. I bought some from buy orders and I also built a good number from BPCs that I managed to get from the market. So I have sold quite a lot of rattlesnakes on the Hypernet prior, so I was pretty convinced that 20 wouldn't take all that long to get rid of. So I placed them in batches of 5 on the Hypernet. I didn't want to oversaturate the market by putting too many on at once and giving people too much choice. These sold relatively swiftly, and once I was getting down to 1 or 2 left, I put another batch of 5 on and just repeat and repeat. So I listed all the rattlesnakes at the exact same price, and that was 784 million ISK, as you can see here, 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 and so on, etc. Again, I did them all at the same price because it would make the spreadsheet and the analysis much easier. It made the taxes and the Hypernet nodes that I would need exactly the same, and again, when it came to a breakdown, it would make it a lot more transparent and easier to understand. So I knocked together a spreadsheet in order to record all the bits and bobs here. So as we can see, we have the rattlesnakes here. There are 20 of them. The price that I paid per rattlesnake was 531 million ISK, which comes to a combined total of 10.6 billion. Now, if I had bought them generally off the sell orders, they were going at the time for 572 million ISK. So if I'd bought them that way, it would have cost me 11.4 billion. So over in this column we've got the price of the rattlesnake that is going up on the Hypernet, and as I said, it's 784 million ISK. Each of the Hypernet nodes, or for the Hypernet nodes, there was 152 of them were required, and that equaled 43 million ISK. The Hypernet tax that I would have to pay at the end of the Hypernet was 39.8 million. 4 of the nodes would be bought by myself, and 4 of the nodes would be bought by random people. So the Hypernet tax and nodes combined is 1.6 million, and I would be bringing in 7.8 billion ISK from the Hypernet sales. And so as it currently stands, we have bought in 7.8 billion. We will minus the 1.6 and we will minus that, but we will plus that box for later. So as it currently stands, I am 4.4 billion ISK down. However, if I had bought them from the general sell orders that were currently in jitter at the time, we would be $5.2 billion ISK down. So obviously, as it stands at the moment, it's all about the amount of rattlesnakes that I get back from doing the Hypernet, and assuming none of them fail, because obviously if they do fail I will lose the Hypernet nodes that I've put in, which is 43 million ISK. However, I was fortunate and none of them did actually fail, so all 20 that I put up sold without having to relist any of them. So again, the total price was, as it stands for the taxes etc., the 1.6 billion ISK. Now as it currently stands, there are none in my hangar at the moment, so it will be nice and easy to see how many I get back versus how many I don't. As I bought half the nodes, I'm expecting 10 back, give or take, so let's see how we get on. So let's get going. So with that, all of them claimed, we received back 8 out of the 20, so just under 50%. Well, I ain't gonna lie, I got a bit nervous there. It looked like I might lose all 20 at one point. Now, let's get back to the spreadsheet and see how we did. So stack them together. As you can see, there are 8 back in my hangar. So back to the spreadsheet to fill it out to see how we got on. So we will take the figure of 531 million ISK, times it by 8 because that's how many was returned, and that gives us a net total of minus 191 million ISK. Now, if we had have bought them from the general sell orders, we would have been down 683 million ISK. So interestingly, if we had have won back the 10 or 50%, we would have made 870 million ISK, and on this one for the buy orders we'd have made 460 million ISK. So if we had have come back at 50-50, we would have been pretty decent. However, we didn't, and raffling 20 Rattlesnakes obviously doesn't come without its risk. I will say generally fortunate that all the Hypernet nodes sold without me having to relist any. Now, obviously, having returned 50%, if that had have been the case, we'd have come out with 870 million ISK, so we would have come out at about 8.5% return on investment, which in Eve standards and general standards is pretty good, especially for the amount of ISK that we were using there. And for the off the buy orders, we would have come out at roughly 4.5%. So again, not terrible, not bad, but the law of averages does state that you should come out roughly at 50%. So although it turned around for me in the end, I still had 40% return there. So the more I do, technically the more of an average that should come back to 50% for. Now that took me 3 days to do, so an 870 million ISK return over the 3 days would have been quite decent. Obviously resulting in a loss is a little disappointing, but again, that's the thing with running statistics. Again, over the term it will obviously even out, but as it currently stands, I am under the average. So taking a look here now, prices have risen since I did this video, but at the time of making the video, the price of the Rattlesnake to buy or to sell on the market to on a sell order was 585 million ISK. Now obviously I bought them for 531 million ISK, so roughly 20 million ISK per Rattlesnake I would have made, times 20 we would have made 400 million ISK. So I could have potentially doubled my ISK, obviously using the Hypernet, but that does come with obviously its own risks. So I may have just been as well off selling these back on the market. Now, one of the flaws I obviously made was not checking that there was enough distance when putting it on the Hypernet for selling it. So if I'd have been a bit more on the ball, I should have been checking to see if there was a decent enough margin. Now, obviously, the margin is okay, but it's quite tight. There are better ships out there, and obviously with the rising and falling prices continuously, then obviously you can fall victim to price fluctuations. I should have chosen a ship that had a better margin on it, therefore lessening the risk of losing any ISK. So in my haste to make this video, I didn't do the simple calculation. Now I have shown you this before, but I will show it again, and it is incredibly simple. Now this only works obviously if you are buying the 4 nodes yourself, or 50% of your nodes, but bear with me. So the cost of the ship was 531 million ISK. Then we have to factor in the Hypernet node cost, which is 43 million. But we are buying 2 sets, so that is times 2, which is 86 million ISK. And then we have the Hypernet tax, which is times 2, So 40 million ISK times 2 is 80, which gives us 679 million ISK. Minus the price that I'll be selling it for on the Hypernet, which is 784 million ISK, brings me out at 87 million ISK. Now, as I've assumed that I will obviously lose half of 20 is 10 times 10 equals 870 million ISK. So if I had have won half of them back, I would have got 780 million ISK. So that is a nice, easy, fast way of calculating it. And the reason we times these by 2 and we only include one ship cost, because on average you are going to win 50% of the time. So we have to assume that every twice or 2 times that you do it, you will lose the ship once. So you are only buying the ship technically once, which is your 531 million is starting. Now the Hypernet node cost, you have to do it on each time you raffle the ship, and obviously that means it's twice the cost, hence the 86. And again, same for the Hypernet tax, which is the 80, and then you are minusing the cost that you are putting it on there. Now obviously that does change if you lose 2 ships in a row, but then you have to assume that you will win the next 2 back. So again, the calculation still stands. So hopefully you enjoyed that. A bit unfortunate that I made a loss there, but again, you can't win them all, and in hindsight I should have been a little bit more careful with the item that I selected. Now obviously I still have the 8 rattlesnakes left. I could potentially re-raffle them in order to win the ISK back, to level it out on the statistical side. But again, I've got a few options. Prices have risen since I bought the rattlesnakes quite considerably, so again, it will depend what I do. But all in all, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, etc., then please feel free to ask in the comments. Drop into the StrangeNet channel in game. There's a good number of us now hanging out here. And with that said, fly safe, and thanks for watching.